Welcome back. As you can probably guess, it's time for another look at Spotykach, as today we talk about this looper's 3 different deck modes. If you're hoping to follow along with your own unit, be sure to check out the earlier Getting Started video, as that covers all the basics. As we saw in that video, Spotykach is basically 2 individual recording decks with mirrored controls. In that regard, each of these decks can be set to one of 3 different looping modes, which you can change on the fly. For the Getting Started video, I stayed in the orange reel mode to keep it simple, so you've already seen that one in action. Suffice it to say, reel mode is the classic tape-style looper that I usually start with most of the time. The key feature of reel mode is that the loop's speed is tied to its pitch, much like a tape machine, meaning when I decrease the pitch of this loop, it also slows down, and vice versa. This can be good for changing the vibe or tempo of a loop, like this. Now it's a bit more of a party. By contrast, I'll load the same loop into the other deck and then set that to the blue slice mode. In this mode, the pitch is separate from the speed, and the speed is instead tied to the clock. So the length remains the same as I pitch the loop up or down like this. However, if I tap a new tempo, blue mode will change accordingly, in this case, speeding up. But if I slide over to reel mode, you can hear it wasn't affected by the tempo change. I'll set both decks to an octave up so you can hear how each mode plays back differently, starting with slice, and now reel. The pitch was the same for both, but orange played faster, while blue stretched the loop to maintain the same length, which can be handy if you're trying to stay in sync with another device. Speaking of sync, another key difference with slice mode is that play and record are also tempo synced. So, depending on how you have your Spotykach set up, if you press play off time from the clock, the blue loop may not start right away as it's waiting for the next beat. This can help keep it in sync with a larger setup, for example. To better demonstrate this, I'll turn on the metronome by holding tap and turning the left glow knob. Now, when I tap play, you can hear it snaps to the beat. Here I'm on beat, and here my finger's off a bit. In both cases, whether my tap is on or off time, the loop will start on the next beat. Also, unlike reel mode, which is monophonic, slice mode is 3-note polyphonic, meaning you can trigger up to 3 iterations of the loop to play over top of each other. For example, if I tap the trigger pad repeatedly in reel mode, it restarts the sample each time. Which can be handy if that's what you want. But if I do the same thing in slice mode, those triggers can overlap, allowing up to 3 voices at once for a more layered sound. Okay, so if reel mode is like a classic tape machine and slice is like a synced digital sampler, then what's the purple drift mode? That's where things get interesting, as it's a granular generator that plays our loops back in tiny moving fragments. For example, here's a synthy loop playing in slice mode, Now, if I switch to drift, you'll hear it goes a bit crazy. If you look closely, you'll see the playhead bouncing around all over the loop as it plays back various grains. Here, I'm going to finally use some of the other knobs to help us shape this sound a bit, as drift really benefits from a few extra parameters that the other modes don't have. For example, all modes share an envelope knob, which shapes the attack and release of our loop as it comes around again, whether it fades it out or in, etc. With this knob all the way counterclockwise like it is now, there's no envelope shaping, and in drift mode, that means it will continuously drone. Let's give our ears a break and set it to fade out instead. Now it's a bit less drony. In drift mode specifically, there are also a few parameters we can access while holding the Alt tab. This is a good place to talk about Spotykach's knob catching system. When a knob has multiple functions depending on what other pad you're holding at the same time, the sweep might light up red in portions to indicate where you have to turn the knob before you'll hear a difference. This prevents sudden jumps when switching between functions on the same knob. For example, I can hold Alt and turn the envelope knob, which now will adjust the length of the envelope. You can see from the red section that the length parameter had been set higher than where our envelope parameter was set, so I have to clear that red by turning the knob before I'll hear an audible difference. And now I can adjust however I'd like. Then we can set our grain density by holding Alt and turning the size knob. Let's put it somewhere about a third up. You can hear now that we've made something more rhythmic out of our initially chaotic sound. Just like the other modes, we can use the size knob to restrict the playback to a smaller portion of the loop, meaning our grains will only bounce around inside this smaller purple segment. Then we can use the position to scrub the loop and start the grains from a different point. Hopefully it also goes without saying that you can still change the pitch in drift mode, just like the other modes. And for reference, this is how our loop started. So you can hear how drift mode was able to take it in quite a different direction. Personally, so far, I like to use the orange real mode as a sort of default basic looper, then switch to the blue slice mode if I need tempo sync or independent pitch, and often pair one of them with the purple drift mode for some texture and unpredictability. It also makes it very easy to transform the same loop in different ways side by side, like this. So those are the 3 deck modes of the official firmware. some fun options, and even more to learn, as we still haven't looked at onboard effects, modulation and patching, integration with external gear, etc. So stay tuned. Anything in particular you'd like to see me dive into next time? Let me know in the comments. In the meantime, I'll probably be looping.